All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting with us today. And now we are going to get started with today's webinar, which is getting started with online scheduling. So just to review once again what we're going to do today, during this webinar, we are going to set up an Appointlet account. Appointlet gives you the ability to offer your clients or customers the freedom to book appointments with you through your website. So we'll cover the basics of getting set up with your Appointlet account, as well as how to connect your Gmail account or Google account that will read from your lifetime calendar and availability, as well as add those appointments automatically to your calendar. We're also going to cover today scheduling and its availability for different types of appointments. For example, if there's a specific type of appointment that you only offer on certain days or at special hours, we will be able to cover that today on how you can say only this type of appointment is allowed during this time. So without further delay, what we're going to do is to visit appointlet.com. In the top right corner, there is a sign up for free button. And so what you can do at this time is you'll give your name, your work email, and a password minimum of 8 characters. Hold on 1 second while we create a unique password here. And so agree to the terms of service, then click Create Your Account. And so now you can name your booking page and whether or not you're offering scheduling for just yourself or your company. So if you're choosing your company and you're going to have multiple team members, you can do that. But for the purpose of today's webinar, we're just going to set up scheduling for yourself as an individual. Oh, oops. Okay, and now below that you can customize your bookings URL. So what you can do if you wish is customize that link so it will be HTTPS and for example here ryanhenry.appointlet.com, but you can also customize that to be the name of your business if you have one. Now it's just like choosing a username for any other website. If that link or URL is taken, it will not allow you to do so. So if you have entered a URL that is accepted, you can click continue. And so now what we're going to do right away, you'll see there's a tutorial that pops up on the screen, and the first thing that it wants us to do is choose a calendar to connect with. So what we're going to do here today is click Google Calendar, and for those of you who are using Office 365, you can use that option as well. So let's click Connect Google Calendar. And so now you'll see a dialog window pop up here for your logged in Gmail account. And so next, Google is going to ask you what permissions are you allowing Appointlet to have into your account. So it needs to be able to view and edit events on all of your calendars and view your calendars. So since we are okay with that permission level of connection between Appointlet and Google, we're going to click Allow. And so now we have connected our calendar. So that means that it's going to read our availability and not overbook us for an appointment. But at the same time, if anyone does book an appointment through the website, it's going to automatically add it to our calendar for us. So next, what we can do is preview the bookings page and see what that looks like. And so it'll tell you up at the top where you click preview. And so this is a short sample of what your booking page looks like. And so by default, you have a 15-minute intro, a 30-minute demo, and a 1-hour consultation. So what we're going to do, since these are not the names of appointments that we wish to use, we are going to go ahead and exit out of here. And we're going to look at meeting types on the left tab of the website. So let's go ahead and close this walkthrough. And so you'll see under the meeting types tab, there are the 3 meetings that we had when we previewed the bookings page. So let's just go ahead and delete them entirely because we're going to create some specific appointment types of our own. So on the right side, you'll see a drop-down caret. And once you click that, you can select delete at the bottom and confirm that you are trying to delete that booking type. And we're going to do that for the other 2 as well here. And so now we have deleted all of the available meeting types with our Appointlet account. So now what we're going to do is create a new meeting type that we're going to add to our bookings page. So first we're going to name our appointment. And choose the duration. Now, typically for most business owners and most people who are familiar with networking, a full 60-minute appointment is not always necessary for a welcome type of appointment, which is what we're trying to set here. So we're going to modify this to be a 30-minute appointment rather than a 60-minute appointment. Next, you can add a description. And then below you can add a picture to your booking type. And so next, if your image is not already square, Appointlet's going to try and crop your image down to an even size on height and width. So since we have a square image to begin with, we don't have to modify anything. Now, if you're using a picture that's much bigger than the content you wish to show, you can always click click the arrows at any corner and scale that image back to the size that you wish to use, and then you can always pull that around. But once again, since we're using the full image here, we're just going to go ahead and stretch it all the way out to each corner. So next, it's going to ask you if you want this booking type to be public. What that means is if someone goes to your main Appointlet page, which in this case was ryanhenry.appointlet.com, this booking type will be shown on that main page along with all of the other bookings that you create that you indicate you'd like to be public. So if you are creating an appointment type that you do not wish to have as a part of your main booking page, you can uncheck this box. Next, under location, you have some options for how you are available to facilitate or carry out this appointment. So the default is notes at designated location. So what we can select from is a web conference, which is has become a very useful meeting type due to the coronavirus restrictions and social distancing that's happened this year. You can also select if you will call the customer or if the customer will call you. So depending on which of these options you select, it's going to be available to be seen on the client side where they're booking the appointment. So the last option is if there's a place involved. So we'll specify the meeting location. So this is if you have a brick and mortar location such as a store or an office that your clients or customers come to, you'll select that. or you could say customer will specify the meeting location. So if your business has to provide the services or bring the products to the customer's location, you would of course select that as an option. Now, what we're going to do here, since we want to do our meeting via Zoom, we're going to click web conference. Now, you'll see under here that there is the ability to add web conferencing software such as Zoom to your Appointlet account. So we're going to get that set up a little later in today's webinar. So under explanation, talk about how that meeting is going to carry out. So we're adding here, this will be a Zoom meeting, since later in today's broadcast we are going to connect Appointlet with a Zoom account. Next, under pricing, under the free version, you do not have the ability to collect payment directly through Appointlet. However, their paid versions have that ability. Now, inside of the free plan of Appointlet, you do still have the ability to specify if there is a charge with that appointment. For example, we have a client who prepares tax returns here in the Indianapolis area. So if she were to create a meeting type for tax preparation, she could specify the price of that meeting type on the front page where customers can see it. So since our meeting type does not have a financial obligation with it, we're going to leave that price at 0. So under cancellations and rescheduling, you can specify the timeline or the notice that you have to have for any of your clients or customers who want to reschedule or cancel the appointment. Typically, our policy is 48 hours, so two days ahead, so you can select those. Now, you can say no cancellations at all if that's your policy. You can also select any of the other options here or create a custom option of your own. Next, you have required notice. So this is how far in the future or how soon, per se, those appointments can be scheduled. So minimum notice, depending on the type of business that you're in and how much advance notice you need to effectively carry out the appointment, you can customize that. Once again, just like our cancellation policy, our minimum notice is 2 days. And maximum notice, this is how far people can schedule in advance on your calendar. So the default here is 90 days. You can also make that shorter or longer depending on what your specific needs are. Now, typically 30 days is plenty of notice or plenty of options to choose from for your customers, but you can always set that at what works for you and your customers or clients. Next, we have breaks. So this is how much time before an appointment and how much time after an appointment that you need. This is a great option for appointments where you have to travel to meet the customer or client somewhere. For example, an in-home service industry such as furnace maintenance and repair may need some drive time in there, or break time, or even time to go back to the office or shop to get more supplies and inventory. So make sure that you put in an appropriate amount of time that you would need to be able to prepare and keep everything at the highest quality when you're meeting with your clients. So we're going to say minimum buffer before a meeting is 1 hour, 0 minutes, but the buffer after a meeting needs to be 30 minutes. Now, what that's going to do is, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to say that you technically need a 90-minute gap, or 1 hour and 30 minutes in between appointments. And that's okay. For appointments that have travel time, or you need breaks in between, or any kind of after appointment notes that you'll have to take or file, or any other administrative work that can be rendered in that time. Now, email notifications, this is something that when you sign up for Appointlet, it gives you the options of a trial of what their paid versions look like. So we're not going to customize any of these email notifications, because once your trial period has set up, this is an option that you're not going to be able to modify. So we'll just skip past there. And next we have pooled availability. Once again, this is an option that's available with the paid versions of Appointlet. So if you are subscribing to their paid version and you have multiple members of your team that are set up through the platform, you can make the appointments available by whichever member of your team is available at the desired booking time. So this would be a great example for cosmetology or similar businesses where you have multiple people who are at that business that can take care of the client or customer, but it would give the person booking the appointment the earliest available appointment of everyone that is taking that type of appointment or service. So next, you have manual confirmation. So this is if you have to log back in and verify appointments before you book them. So this is an option that, depending on your needs as a business, you may want to enable. It would allow you to look at each booking and decide, one, if it's legitimate, and two, if it's going to be a good fit for you. So a great example of when to use this is if there are things that the client or customer needs to send you before your scheduled meeting. Once again, looking at tax preparation, there's a number of documents that are necessary to be able to effectively file that return. So requiring manual approval would allow you to log back in, look at the scheduled appointment, and then as you confirm it, reach out to that customer and let them know what kind of documentation they're going to need to submit in advance or bring with them to the scheduled appointment. So once you are happy with the changes that you've made to your appointment, you click the green Save Changes button. And so now you have created that meeting in your Appointlet account. So next, what we need to do, since we've created the appointment, we need to click the Members and Availability tab. And so you'll see that we can click on ourselves. And if we look at the calendar, you can see which calendar it's connected to, what the bookings calendar is. So this is a great example that you need to know if you have multiple calendars that you have inside of your account. For example, most people have their general calendar, and then they have a US holidays calendar and a birthdays calendar for their contacts. All three of those are default calendars created by most platforms. So personally, as someone who uses Office 365 for business at times, those calendars are created by default. But at the same time, many people create a personal calendar or family calendar. So under the General tab here, you can choose which calendar inside of your account you want your bookings to work with. Next, you can check at your availability from all calendars. So what that looks like is if you're using your work calendar and then you have a family calendar, and your family calendar has your availability blocked out, or at times does require your availability to be booked out, you can make it choose from all calendars inside of that account. Now, if you just want it to look at the specific calendar that we looked at here from the bookings, so if your other calendars don't have any kind of dictation on your timing requirements or your availability, you can select just the calendars that you want. Next, we have available hours and meeting times. So this tab allows you to create a set schedule of availability that you can then assign to different booking types inside of your Appointlet account. What that means is that if you have more than one booking type, such as our welcome consultation, and then we have, as we'll add later in our webinar today, other booking types to it, we can make each appointment have its own set of availability and hours. So it gives us a little greater control of when the customer or client is allowed to book that appointment. So you'll see schedule number 1 has defaulted us to 9 to 5 p.m. Now, if we want to change those hours, we simply click on it and we can say a single time, such as when we start or a range of times, such as when we open and when we close. So let's go ahead and say we don't quite want to take an appointment all the way at 9 o'clock in the morning, so we'll move that to 10, and then we can push our availability back to 6 o'clock. Now, frequency. So this is what frequency or what interval clients or customers can book appointments with you. Can they look at the calendar by every 30 minutes? So are they able to schedule a 2 p.m. meeting or a 2:30 p.m. meeting? Now, we can also go down to every 5 minutes. So you could say 2 o'clock p.m., 2:05 p.m., and so on. Same thing with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and so on. The default that we typically use is 30 minutes because from a perspective of having enough time to prepare for an appointment, giving someone a choice of a 30-minute arrival time there as 2 o'clock or 2:30 usually works pretty well for us. So now we can make those changes to every other day in the week. And for each day, you can customize this. So let's say if you want to, on Tuesday, make availability every 15 minutes, well, you can do that. Now, you can also add additional hours inside of that category. You can also assign those to other days of the week. So, for example, if we want to just say, oh, whoops, we created our extra schedule yet. So let's say we want the same time for every day of the week. We come back and say frequency every 30 minutes, but we're going to make it available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So now we save changes, and you'll see that Monday through Friday has 10 p.m. to 6 p.m. available. Now, if you have different weekend hours that are available, you can add those. And once you're happy with your schedule, you can scroll down, and next you'll see a meeting type. So this allows you to choose which booking types are available under your schedule that you've created here. So since we have our first schedule set up and only one appointment, we're going to select that welcome consultation. And you can also make these schedules temporary. So let's say, for example, around holiday weeks or around summertime vacation or other notable events throughout the year, you can make these different schedules temporary and not start at certain times. So let's say if coming up on Labor Day, which is in a couple of months from when we're recording this video today, you can say, I want this only from the year, the month, and date that I want it to start to the year, month, and date that I want it to end. Now, next you have scheduling rules. So this is how many appointments will you allow to be booked for you on one day. So the default is unlimited, which means it's going to continue to offer availability on that day for folks to book appointments with you, regardless of how many other appointments you already have in the day, just at your next availability. Now, if you only want to take a set number of appointments per day, you can specify. So let's go ahead and select we're not going to take more than 4 appointments in a day. That way we don't get overloaded. So with all of the other commitments and obligations that are necessary to provide good quality service, we don't want to book too many appointments in that window. Next, we have phone and web conferencing. So this is where if you have a phone conferencing number, you can add that to your phone and web conferencing options, or you can select Zoom, which would then allow you to log in with your Zoom accounts. Now, what that does for the appointments that you set up as a Zoom meeting or a Zoom or web conference, it will automatically book the Zoom meeting with you and make that information available to the person that books the appointment. So you don't then have to go through and create a Zoom meeting and email it to the person who's going to be attending with you. So let's go ahead and log into our account. Now, next, it will once again, just like we did with our Google account, or excuse me, just with connecting our Google account to Appointlet, Zoom is asking us for which permissions it needs to go ahead and connect these apps together. Now, we're not going to connect these two accounts because it will disconnect it from another Appointlet that we have set up. Now, once you click pre-approve and then authorize, you have then given Zoom permission with Appointlet to automatically create meetings based on scheduled appointments through Appointlet. So next, once you're happy with your changes, we're going to click the green Save Changes button. And now that meeting is set, and customers and clients can now book that appointment with us based on our availability. So let's go back to our meeting types and you'll see our welcome consultation. So you see here there's a share button. And so there's this web URL here that you can use. And once you copy it, you open a new tab. And this is what your booking page looks like. So you can now take that link and put it anywhere that you want your customers or clients to be able to click and schedule an appointment. So a great example of how to do this would be in the menu of your website. You can create an external URL, title it book appointment or schedule, and then enter this URL here to be able to get to the Appointlet page where customers can schedule an appointment with you. Now, some other options that you can do here, there is a button to embed an Appointlet Book Now appointment or a button for your website that you can then copy the HTML and paste it directly into your page. Now, one downside that exists there is unless you have some good working understanding of how to use or write HTML, there's not a lot that you can do to customize this button. So in most scenarios, it just works better to be able to copy that link and then share it as a button in the menu of your website, or even as a clickable button in an email campaign that you send out to your contacts. So next, what we're going to look at is form fields. So form fields are customized fields of data that you can collect about anyone who's trying to schedule an appointment with you. So you'll see that it defaults email, first name, and last name. That's a pretty good start for what information we need to know about our incoming appointments. So what we're going to do is create a new field, and we can choose what type of field is available here. So you'll see there's general text checkbox, a single choice, which is commonly known as a radio button, or a multiple choice field, which could, or excuse me, single choice in this circumstance would be like, I agree to terms of service. Multiple choice format would be more of the radio button option. Now, next you have some predetermined fields that you can add in here, such as a date field, a time field, email, which we already have here, a URL field, a street address field. So those of you who are setting this app up to provide appointments at your customer or client's location, that's a field that you're going to need here. So what we're going to do is, because it did not default to asking for a phone number, and we did not see a phone number as an option here, we are going to go back up and select text. And we can select whether or not this is a required field. So let's go ahead and title this phone number. And now, so you'll notice that it gives a default of 100 characters length. We don't need nearly that many characters for a phone number. So if you typically think about it, a phone number has 10 digits in it. So 317-559-1059. So that's 10 digits that we need. But we also have to account for other things such as dashes or parentheses that people typically put in when writing a phone number. So most commonly you see area code dash prefix dash last four numbers, or you see first parenthesis area code end parenthesis number dash number, or and there's a space in there. So what does that give us? That gives us 1, 2, 3 additional characters in there, but there's also commonly a space. So what we're going to do is allow up to 14 characters in this field. So that means that regardless of how someone types their phone number in there, we've got a pretty good chance of having only enough space for however someone would commonly input their phone number. Next, you can select which meeting types that you wish the form to come up in, and it always is going to default for all meeting types, but you can uncheck that and then select specific meetings that it's necessary for. Now, under the Advanced tab, you'll see whether or not this field is visible, so meaning whether or not the person booking the appointment can see or fill out this field. And then you have your query string slug. So this is the value that's in a field. So what that means is you can create URL hooks that if someone is coming from another page, you can add this additional content at the end of the URL and pre-populate the telephone number, in this case, to that field. So once we're happy with our changes, we'll click Save. And since there's one other field that we want to know for an appointment type here, we're going to select Text field again, and we want to know the name of the person's company who's booking an appointment. And so for that, we still don't need 50 characters, or excuse me, we still don't need 100 characters, but we do need more than probably 14. So we're going to go ahead and cut that 100 in half into 50. That way there's enough space for most people to type in the full name of their business, but not too many characters that they could just continue entering in, characters into that field. So once again, under meeting types, we want this for all booking types. And so we'll save those changes as well. So now what we have done so far, just to review where we are in this webinar right now, is that we have set up our Appointlet account. We have created one meeting type. We have created a schedule that you can assign to each meeting type that you create. We have also added some customized form fields that you can add to the data collected when a customer or client books an appointment with you. So now let's go ahead real quick, and we're going to add a second meeting type here. So if you were watching with us earlier in this webinar, we created a 30-minute consultation. So now we're going to create something longer, which is a 1-hour consultation. And so the duration defaults to 1 hour, so we don't need to make any changes. And so description, we want to give this meeting a little bit of a description to know what this meeting is, or a little bit of an explanation about it. Next, we upload our picture. And then we can review or crop the picture. Now keep in mind, your image is going to crop into a square, so it does help if you make sure that you start with a square image to begin with. However, if your image is not square, it is going to force you to crop that image down to a square shape. So once again, public means whether or not this booking is available on your main Appointlet page. So when you created your Appointlet account, you had to create a custom URL for your Appointlet calendar. So if you leave this checked, that means that this appointment type will be visible from the main Appointlet page that you've created. If you uncheck that, it will not be available on the full Appointlet page, and you would just link directly to this meeting type. Now, location, you'll select whether this is a web conference, a phone call, or Skype call, or whether or not the customer comes to you or if you go to the customer. So our last appointment type we set up as a web meeting. So this time around, we're going to say that we'll call the customer. So in the explanation, we'll add, make sure to give us your phone number so that way we know where to call the customer who's booking the appointment. Now, once again, we have our pricing. So if you charge money for that appointment, and most professionals out there have something that they can book appointments for that they charge to conduct. Now, in the free version of Appointlet, you can specify how much it costs to book that appointment, but you cannot collect payment through Appointlet. In the premium version of Appointlet, you can integrate a payment service to be able to collect payment through the booking page. Canceling and rescheduling. So specify what your policy is about how soon before or the appointment are they allowed to cancel or reschedule that. So if we're less than 2 days away from their appointment time, the customer cannot cancel or reschedule that. So this is a good option for those who in their agreement have a specified cancellation fee if they're within that window, but just make sure that in the details, if you have a cancellation policy, that you specify it there. Next, minimum notice. How soon before the scheduled appointment time can a customer book that appointment with you? And then maximum notice. How far in advance can they go to create that appointment? Next, a buffer in between your appointments. So how long before an appointment do you need as time to prepare? And then after an appointment, how much time do you need to debrief or take a break or commute or anything like that? So once you're happy with your changes, click Save. And now you'll see that there are 2 meeting types that are available that customers can schedule with us. So to take each of these appointment types and share them somewhere, you click the share icon, and the default option is a link that you can then embed into a button or hyperlink into a document or add as an external link to your website. Now, if you want to embed a button on your website, you can do that under the website tab. And you'll see this is what your button preview looks like. So you can choose your color. You can specify which team member can be scheduled, that you can schedule an appointment with, and then what color you want your appointlet button to be. So once you're happy with your selection, you copy this HTML code and paste it into your destination where you're trying to share it, such as your website. Now, the one drawback of this button is unless you understand how to write or do anything with HTML, this is not something that you can do a lot to customize. So this is where I typically recommend simply using a link, so then you can embed it inside of anything else that you want, such as an external URL in your website menu, or a button inside of an email campaign, or hyperlinked in any kind of document, email message, or anything else that you're sharing. So at this time, what we have done is we have now set up our Appointlet account, created some meetings, created some scheduling availability, and added some customized form fields. So we have now successfully set up an Appointlet account that would allow you to give your customers or clients the option to schedule appointments with you. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to see more videos on how to build a better online presence for your business, visit openinindiana.com/watch. Thanks for watching today.